If you're here, you probably have read, heard, or watched a lot of anxiety recovery related content by now. I know back in the days, I was so determined to dig myself out of this situation, I soaked up as much info as I possibly could. But most of the info I found was so unrelatable to me. The web was full of people who have recovered by meditating, recovered with simple breathing exercises, or with positive affirmations, mindfulness techniques, and those kind of things. Trust me, every single one of those exercises I did try and stuck to them for quite a bit, but my mind kept racing and it wouldn't give me a single minute of peace in which I could even consider properly meditating or to concentrate on the bright side of things. I kind of got upset about all these courses that teach anxiety recovery as simply changing your way of thinking or trying to work on anxiety with a more spiritual approach. From then on out, every time I heard or read someone talk about meditation, for example, I would immediately label him or her as a fake guru and had to click away at some point. Now looking back, that might have been a bit too harsh, and I do see a lot of benefits in these kind of exercises. Meditation, mindfulness, breathing techniques, and positive affirmations are all in my stable of anxiety management tools that I still use to this date, but I kind of had to work myself into a stage in which I could even start using them. Think about it. If you're completely stressing out about something, and your head is about to explode from all the worries going on in your mind, do you really believe that you can quiet your mind by simply telling yourself that you should be calm now? That is exactly what these methods try to do. They're aimed to intervene the process of completely freaking out by reminding you of the positive sides, for example, or by thinking and breathing calmly in a state where your whole self wants to do nothing else than to run or fight and can only concentrate on the negatives. It's a natural instinct, and unless you have trained your brain to react very intensely to these mental exercises before your anxiety disorder has started, I believe it's nearly impossible to successfully implement them in the midst of it. Your mind is just too negatively pulled and stressed out to even get the chance to reap any benefits from them. You can't even start the exercises without your mind immediately drifting off to negative and devastating thoughts. Of course, there will always be exceptions, but generally speaking, I do believe this to be the case. I believe that anxiety recovery should be exactly the other way around, because as you guys probably know, the body and the mind are very connected. If you face a stressful thought, your body will tense up as well. And the tricky part with this is that our anxiety disorder will create so much stress, and that for prolonged periods of time, so that our body becomes so tense and hurtful, it can create hundreds of different bodily sensations. And that is where the nightmare for many of us usually begins. Our mind is so negatively wired and in constant lookout for danger, because in fight or flight mode. And combined with a body that keeps sending out all these sensations, our fearful mind will of course immediately identify them as a possible threat to our well-being. And this is exactly the vicious cycle you most probably heard of many times before. Your mind is stressed, which then stresses the body. And all those stress symptoms further accelerate your stress levels. And round it goes. Interrupting this cycle is what a big part of anxiety recovery is all about. So like I mentioned before, most of the approaches I came across concentrate on working on and changing specific thinking patterns. But because we are under so much stress and the mind is already pretty much set into negativity mode, it is very difficult to get a grip of your thoughts. So instead, I believe you should interrupt this cycle by improving your body's sense of comfort first. And the reason is simple. Just the way your mind affects your body has an impact on your mind as well. And the great thing about this approach is that unlike the brain, your body can be pushed and controlled in order to get certain exercises done. Yes, of course, there still can be a battle going on in your mind, perhaps wondering if it's safe for you to exercise, or maybe some motivation issues along the way. But at the end of the day, it is still a lot more manageable than going straight up against your natural instincts. Getting rid of muscle tension, which by the way is the reason for most of your anxiety symptoms, and the fatigue that goes hand in hand with anxiety, should be your number one goal, at least at the very beginning of your recovery journey. Once you get some of your body's sense of comfort back, you will immediately notice your whole outlook on your situation will be a lot more positive. This is not only because you face a lot less symptoms, but because when the body feels comfortable, it will have a direct positive impact on your mental state. Once you have reached this state, the mind becomes a lot more controllable, and this is where exercises for the mind start to make sense and become worth the time and effort. This is the moment you can truly practice exercises for the mind and so accelerate your recovery even more. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you're new here and want to see more anxiety related content just like this one, consider subscribing.